Sands of Time is easily the most complex game in Minecraft Championships, and it's my personal favorite. The complexity is super intriguing, and it's often a deciding factor in who goes to Dodgeball, as it's the most rewarding and most lucrative game in the tournament. And contrary to popular belief, it's not all RNG. There are so many ways to optimize your route and decisions to maximize your coin output, and I get so infuriated when people call it RNG because it's not. That's why I'm here. To spend too much time watching VODs to find out the best strategy for every room and the general facts on how to win this game. But before I show you how big of a nerd I am, I'd like to say if you could like and subscribe, that would be so epic. At times, if you do it, it'll show you where the blue vault is. That's pretty key. I get it. It's a bad pun. Don't judge me. Yeah, let's get into the video. Alright, let's start with some general facts. First, the blue key and the green vault are always very close to spawn. The red key is consistently under the sand timer. The gold key is at the end of a lava parkour, more often the harder one. The red and gold vaults are about 1.5 times as valuable as the green and blue vaults. It's about 400 to 500 coins with the multiplier versus 600 to 800. And no, blue in the map does not necessarily mean that the blue vault is near, okay? Alright. Okay, now to strategy. First, make sure you grab all of the rusty keys, and I guess the torches and arrows as well, before you go into dungeons. A common mistake among players is that they'll go to a dungeon without a rusty key, and they'll have to go back and burn more precious time. In general, what I would do is have one person go left, one person go right, and one under the portal. It's often a super rewarding path that no one really takes, and if you're trying to catch up, that's a good way. Also, having someone at one point go down below the timer to obtain the red vault key done through the piston puzzle is nice to have. Another piece of advice is that you should be eliminating spawners as quickly as possible. Dealing with mobs is quite simply a big pain, and in order to deal with that better, what you can do is eliminate spawners as quickly as possible. One of the main reasons I say this is because Vexes are terrible. They can just hunt you down and come when you don't want them and even kill you and sacrifice the sand. Alright, markers are also one of the most important functions of the game. They're really useful to know who is where, what they're doing, and how far they are into it. In general, there's a consensus that one carpet means that you're exploring somewhere, and a row of carpets means you're done. I would like to make an addition to this consensus, in that if you have checkered carpets, that means that there's a vault. Sometimes people use arrows, but you only get a stack, and you have to use those pretty conservatively, or else you might run out like Fundy did. Up next, the avoidance of the Sphinx bothers me in the lava parkour moment specifically. Here's why. If you see in this chart here, if you don't consider yourself confident enough in parkour, maybe like top 10 or so in the event, then the Sphinx has to be something you consider unless if you have serious ground to make up to get into dodgeball. I mean, look at this chart. A lot of the best scenarios certainly don't use the Sphinx, but a lot of the worst scenarios do. Take of this what you want, because it's so situational as to what the ideal solution is, and at the end of the day, I'm not the competitor here, I'm not even a tester. Up next, here's what to do in every room I could find, and the ideal plan. This does include general corridors and 3-dimensional travel, including mazes. Let's go into it. Let's start off with the TNT room. What you do in the TNT room is you go into the middle of the line of TNT, the very middle of the room, and check if there's a hole. If you fall, then there is a hole, and it's safe. But if not, then leave. In the case where there's a hole, you go into the hole, minus spawners, you don't have to, but I guess you can. And then go to the gold through the back, trigger the TNT, and fall into the pit, and go back up again. This exposes you to as little TNT as possible. Then, use the ladders in the pit to escape. The ascending trapdoor parkour. This is one where it's never worth it, and I cringe when contestants go up and try this. It takes so much time, and there's not enough reward. Players very often struggle with this, and leave it disappointed. They regret this later, and just avoid it in the future. The easy parkour that has lava and walls. For this one, do it if you're comfortable and think you can survive. Most people can, but if you're not comfortable enough, then don't do it. Okay, now about the very hardest parkours. Don't do it if you don't think you can make it, if you don't see good loot on the other side, and a vault key can be on the other side, the gold one by the way. If you also have a large sum of coins that you can't afford to lose, I wouldn't do it as you can't get those back. If you don't feel like you can take a risk, then don't. If you see skeletons, then that's a hard no. Also, the one with the golden key gets 200 additional coins, and I believe that's with a 2 multiplier, as I watched a tester bot find that information out. Only do the one without a key if you're good at parkour, or very good, because it might be easy, but the reward is minimal and the risk is very high. The ascending spawner sections with ladders. They're normally worth it, but people can play it wrong, so here's the better way. People usually try to tackle each section one at a time, but that can be bad. Instead, just light up everything as soon as possible because Vexes, again, are horrible. They can spawn up above because that's how spawner mechanics work, and they can be a pain for legitimately the rest of the game. So just try to eliminate every spawner as quickly as possible. Obviously, like, don't die, you know? You can take it one at a time if you have to. But this leads me to a crucial piece of advice. Look, you don't have to kill every mob if you don't want to. Sometimes it's a waste of time. Think about it. If you're Tommy Innit in MCC8, let's say, he spent time killing mobs that he didn't need to, and it ultimately could have cost his team so many coins through the gold vault and fills of sand. If you can run away from a mob and you don't think you'll encounter it in the future, then just run away with it. You won't face the punishments anyways. The dispensers over water. Just totally do these. Do what Punch did here. Flick all of them at once and then go down and collect the coins. You don't even have to kill the mobs, and it's so valuable money-wise. It's very, very profitable. Now, what about the dispensers over regular terrain? Now, the best idea I could come up with this is just do these as you leave, because the mobs won't annoy you while you go on your adventure, I guess. I don't know. It's just, couldn't really think of one for this one. So the small regular pits without a trapdoor are always super good. It's loads of coins at the cost of like maybe 2 skeletons at most. They were very rare in MCC12 though. But the ones with the trapdoor on the other hand, the first thing you do is peek. If there's nowhere to go from there and no valuable loot, then just ignore it. It's super judgment-based call and it's situational. Can't really help you out there with that one. Okay, so the water fence pole parkour, unless if you're really not confident or you fail a lot, there's no reason not to do this. This one gives you enough coins to the point where it's worth your time. The big guardian pit. I saw this in MCC12 and my first thoughts, even though I didn't see anyone that went in it, was just don't bother, to be honest. It just seems like a pain and the guardians can do a lot of damage. Also drowning seems difficult, and unless if you really like have it down and you're a speedrunner or something, then I just wouldn't really care. Now for the big mob pit, what I would do is light it all up, get some coins immediately, make sure that nothing can spawn, and then just run away from all the mobs. Hopefully you'll have lit up a Vex so a maximum of one of them can spawn, so just get some coins. The big Ravager pit. Here are 2 strategies. The first one I like more, and it's just to use arrows to take them down, then go in and get some coins. The second one is if you don't have enough arrows or don't feel comfortable, is to just go get a teammate to be a distraction while you go in and get coins, because Ravagers can only lock into one at a time. The color puzzle is a generally new concept. You get loads of coins, but it's pretty challenging if it's just one person. Now for me, I can actually have pretty stupid memorization with this kind of stuff, but if there's anyone else, then I would probably just get a partner if you want and think it's worth your time. Anything with an iron door, I would just avoid it. If there's no way out, then don't do it. Now, the water parkour. Just do this if you think you're capable of doing it quickly. This applies to basically any parkour that doesn't have a death trap in it. And by that I mean just lava. Now, what about the easy lava parkour? You know, it's just got a bunch of blocks. If there's no skeletons, and if you're willing to take a little bit of a risk and have some confidence, then do it. Why not? There's some money. The small 4-way tower rooms. Don't go up the towers unless you see a good amount of money. But these rooms often have vexes in them, so make sure to eliminate the spawning possibility as soon as possible. And finally, the infamous 4-sand blaze room. It's not always a blaze room, but whatever. So what you do for this one is pretty simple actually. You do is you mine some sand and then immediately after light up both of the spawners. Make sure to not give too much spawning time and make sure that there's a minimal amount of mobs so you can get the coins. Then if there are blazes, you can just, if there's enough, you can deal with them through ranged weapons, but if not, then you can kind of just hit them with your sword. And then after that, what you can do is you can collect the coins. There was one instance where there were wither skeletons here, and this was just an absolute pain, okay? But wither skeletons can't go through 2x2 blocks. In fact, I don't think that zombies can go for anything that's less than that. So like, if you're in a maze and you're sort of trapped into a back end, if you place a marker, then it'll likely stop the spawning from zombies. For example, Dream in MCC8, had he known this, he would have been fine, because you can't actually place sand. I mean, you can block glitch with it, but you can't actually place sand. There are a lot of other rooms, but a lot of these are really wide open and don't have one certain objective to go to, or they're just corridors that you think are rooms. So yeah, that's basically it. Let's go over what I said in the video. So basically, the sand timer is great. You make sure that they're the loudest person, and you make sure that their voice is the most important. They can go out in certain areas, but don't be too ambitious with it. Vaults are very important. They not only are worth a lot of coins, but they have that sweet, sweet intimidation factor that gets sent in the chat. It's a big flex, I know. And lastly, it's not all RNG. Shut up. So that's pretty much it. If you did enjoy, again, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more things that I do in my life. And follow me on Twitter. You can always do that. I'd really appreciate it. And finally, if you're a participant, I think this video is pretty useful. I don't know about you, but I think it's pretty cool. Alright, that'll be it. This was Clyze, and I'm out.